Steam has added a new rule disallowing games that violate the rules and standards set forth by payment processors and card networks, or internet service providers. At the same time, many incest-themed games were removed from the store. Okay, usually I don't like the idea of censorship, but this seems like a good thing. I don't like the idea of games like Incest Tales Sister and Mom and Incest Daughters BDSM being on the platform, so I think we can all agree that this is a good thing, right?
I don't think payment processors should be allowed to decline service for anything that is not illegal.
They're trying to dictate what's right or wrong and what you're allowed to spend your money on. That should offend you to your core.
Well, gamers, we're getting our civil rights revoked with this one. So in case you're not terminally online like me, Steam recently put out a new rule prohibiting content that may violate the rules and standards set forth by payment processors and related card networks, in particular, certain kinds of adult-only content. Now, in a normal situation, I, someone who is very much pro-free speech, would be against this kind of censorship. However, as you are able to see by this screenshot, the games that were taken off Steam are of extremely explicit nature, mostly involving interfamiliar relations and BDSM, and sometimes involving children. This isn't the first time this happened, by the way, because a couple of months back, a game called No Mercy was taken off Steam by its developer after public backlash. And in that game, your goal is to literally have sex with your mother and rape women. I mean, the description alone is the work of a master wordsmith Gooner. No Mercy is a 3D choice-driven adult visual novel with a huge focus on incest and male domination. After your mother's affair shatters your family, you take on a new role, not to fix what's broken, but to claim her for yourself, unveil her deepest secrets, subdue her, and make all women yours. So basically, this game is like Chris Chan's deepest, darkest, twisted fantasy. Actually, since we're talking about the evils of gooning, I gotta put on my anti-gooning shield. Alright. Now, I feel safe from all kinds of deviants. Now, something you will notice with a lot of critics of this decision by Steam is that they always seem to be gliding over the games that were taken off and instead shift all of their focus to the censorship part of the story, as if that's a trigger word that's going to get everyone on their side. I will never approve of censorship being driven by these payment processors. They are payment processors. Just process the payments and shut up. The content is legal. You are in no position to moralize. Woe be upon you. Not to sound totally insane, but I simply think payment processors shouldn't be allowed to censor shit and blacklist certain forms of content on a whim. Oh wow, look who's talking. It's the VTuber bitch who decided to go naked on Twitch. What does that make your opinion? That's right, invalid!
You're raped! You're totally raped! You're fucking pathetic, bro! You are totally and utterly fucking pathetic, dude! I've never seen such a raped individual before.
But going back to the other guy's tweet where he says that the content is 100% legal, it just isn't. And I'm going to prove it by using the Miller test, which, if you don't know, was used back in 1973 by the Supreme Court to determine if a speech is obscene and therefore falls outside of protection of the First Amendment. The test is split into three parts: whether the average person, applying contemporary community standards, would find that the work, taken as a whole, appeals to the voyeuristic interest, whether the work depicts or describes in a patently offensive way sexual conduct specifically defined by applicable state law, and whether the work, taken as a whole, lacks serious literary, artistic, political, or scientific value. So what do we know about these removed games? While searching for the footage is something that I'm not going to do because I don't want to end up on a watch list, we can simply tell from the titles that they are about sexual acts of incredibly degenerate nature. This means that they automatically tick the first and second boxes, because these acts are obviously illegal, and the games no doubt portray portray them in a voyeuristic manner. These games are also made for the sole purpose of sexually gratifying the scum and filth that buy them, so therefore they have no literary, artistic, political, or scientific value, which means we can tick the third and final box and definitively label these games as obscene, meaning they were rightfully taken off Steam. Unfortunately, the vast majority of people haven't arrived at the same conclusion, so we get some pretty bad takes. Now, one of the biggest voices in this crowd of critics is a YouTuber called Chibi Reviews, and it's not even this guy's first rodeo. Back in December of last year, he criticized Visa and MasterCard for refusing to process payments on various Japanese manga and anime sites, which on the surface sounds bad because it's a big business censoring a much smaller business and by extension freedom of speech, until you actually get into all the grimy details and you start to realize why maybe Visa and MasterCard were right to do so.
The reason why these card companies are doing it is because they want Japan to censor themselves. They don't like certain content that's on there, like certain fan service content and stuff like that. There is a lot of stuff like Melon Books is a recent site I covered that houses a lot of different manga and houses merchandise. It also houses, 18 plus content as well. And the thing is, it's completely all legal, sanctioned under Japan, everything like that. It is completely fine to use and buy in Japan on these sites and stuff.
Whoa, Chibi, that was some very vague phrasing right there. What do you mean by fan service? What do you mean by this content being 18 plus and completely legal in Japan? Why are you phrasing it like it's only legal in Japan? Is it illegal everywhere else? What exact material are you referring to that is 18 plus and completely legal in Japan?
And even if you disagree with the explicit content on these sites, okay? It's not real. It's not real. It's not real whatsoever, okay? Drawings and stuff.
Yeah, back then Chibi was trying to defend lolicon material, and now he's trying to do the same thing with incest and rape games on Steam. Give this guy a bit more time, and he'll go the full Amos Yee route and start talking about the morality of pedophilia.
A Memphis man is in jail after police say he uploaded sexually explicit videos of himself with children.
Now, if you take a look at this picture, obviously there's going to be a lot of people that are going to watch this video, and they're not going to care for this content. They're going to say that's gross, that's creepy, that's weird, whatever. Have whatever opinion you want, okay? I'm not here to judge someone. What I'm going to say, however, if you actively allow someone to censor content, you open the door up for more censorship. For instance, it never stops at content you dislike. It continues to happen. Censorship is a slippery slope, and once you go past a certain threshold, there's no coming back.
Now, I do agree that censorship is a powerful tool and can be used in a very abusive manner. In Russia, for example, they passed a law that banned child-free propaganda in movies. And now they're going all out and considering banning content that goes against traditional values. We also have the Online Safety Act in the UK, which censors posts on social media and forces you to verify your age when you sign into Spotify. So yes, I do agree that censorship results in these massive and needless measures that just dissatisfy everyone. The problem is that Chibi Reviews, much like every single lolicon-loving sexual deviant out there, doesn't get the hang of what a slippery slope is. A slippery slope is wanting to ban Modern Warfare 2 for no Russian or God of War 3 for violent executions. It does not involve wanting to ban anime CP. That's just common sense. Now, don't get me wrong, I 100% think that payment companies holding this much power is dangerous, because this means that you could be unable to access something simply because the payment company doesn't like it. I mean, what happens if one day someone decides to go to a bookstore and buy a copy of 50 Shades of Grey, and then Visa refuses to process the payment simply because the book has depictions of BDSM? Now, to be fair, I think that buying 50 Shades of Grey or watching 50 Shades of Grey is a sign of very low intelligence, but if the person wants to read the book or watch the movie, it's their right to do so. A feminist group called Collective Shout has admitted to being responsible for the censorship with payment processors for Steam and potentially other areas. They have been gleefully jumping for joy in the last 24 hours on getting games censored. Okay, let's see what these feminazis are jumping up and down about. Open letter to payment processors profiting from rape, incest, and child abuse games on Steam. Okay, so from this framing alone, you are in support of games that glorify rape, incest, and child abuse. That doesn't seem like a good thing to stand behind. I'm not saying that I support everything this group is doing and has done, because this organization was also responsible for banning Tyler the Creator from touring in Australia and also contributed to GTA 5 being banned from Australian shops, which are initiatives that I don't support in any way. But here, I have to morally side with them, because these games clearly portray rape and incest in a way that is supposed to be sexually gratifying. I wish I didn't have to support these radical feminists, but when the choice comes down to Hitler Cunny Rapist 1488 and Susan 45 She-Her Rad Femme, I'm choosing the individual that doesn't have 50 gigabytes of child porn on their hard drive. One thing that I will agree on is that groups like Collective Shout tend to be quite radical when it comes to getting rid of content which they see as harmful. Besides getting GTA 5 removed from Australian supermarkets, they also unsuccessfully tried to get Detroit Become Human banned from Australia due to its depiction of child abuse and violence against women, which I think is just beyond absurd. However, at the same time, I think that games that are solely based on glorifying horrendous acts probably shouldn't be allowed on a mainstream platform like Steam. Something like Postal 2 or even Hatred is fine because of the technicalities involved with those games. With the former, you can just choose not to commit any violent acts, and with the latter, it doesn't actively tell you that committing a killing spree is good. Meanwhile, these degenerate games are rooted in actively gratifying the player with perverted fantasies. I also brought this argument up in my video about VTubers defending Lolicon, but to boil it down, the argument that Lolicon is not harmful does not make sense, because it's pornographic material which releases dopamine, just like in sex. Eventually, you're gonna want more dopamine, and to satisfy yourself, you're gonna either end up gooning to material that is straight up illegal, or actually doing illegal things to a real-life person. Traditional video games with violence, on the other hand, have a much less likelihood of creating violent tendencies, because killing someone in real life doesn't provide the dopamine hit you get in a video game. We already know about how harmful porn is to the human brain, so therefore we can make the conclusion that this kind of material, whether it be in anime form, video game form, or on the hub, results in the degeneration of the individual into a savage gooner and a potential threat to society. First, they came for this, and I didn't say anything, as I didn't play it. Then they came for this, and I didn't say anything, because I only wishlisted it. They then came for this, and now I can't play it. Hey, I also don't want Mass Effect to be banned due to violent content, but I also don't want Steam to allow games where you rape either your mother, an unconsenting woman, or a child. You don't have to institute a blanket ban on everything remotely violent, but you also don't have to allow everything that gets uploaded onto Steam, because that's just going to cause anarchy. The last company that did a similar thing was Twitch, and the end result was people drawing furry cocks and VTubers going naked. If those games were allowed to remain on Steam with the prior restrictions, what do you think is gonna happen once there are absolutely no roadblocks? Do you seriously think someone is not gonna create a game where you literally rape a child? Someone is definitely gonna do that, and then you're gonna be like, well, how could Steam allow this? Well, it's because you wanted it! So I think the best and most reasonable conclusion we can reach here is that payment company dominance is bad, but these games are bad as well. And I think we need to reach a halfway point where payment companies don't dominate every single field and abuse their power and censor everything, but that these games are also not allowed because, well, they straight up gratify fucking illegal acts, and that we get some good moderation on Steam, and we are able to keep, you know, the normal violent games and get rid of all this degeneracy. But anyway, guys, that is the end of this very epic commentary video. Thank you all so much for watching and for all of your support. Remember to subscribe, like, comment, turn notifications on. Please comment because it really helps me out in the algorithm. And as always, I will see you guys in the next video. Bye bye.
She back to the bone. Ay, wait, these niggas watching. I swear to God, they be my clones. Switching my hoes like my flows. Switching my friends like my clothes. Keep on shooting that gun, no reload.